The film begins with a flashback. Little Henry is being bullied by hooligans, but his father drives them away, saying,
"You little pussy."
Then Henry wakes up in a tank filled with water in an unknown laboratory. He remembers nothing about his past life or how he ended up there. A woman named Estelle drains the water from the container. Henry looks down and realizes that his left forearm and his leg below the knee are missing. The woman tells him that he cannot speak yet, but it is only temporary. His eyes had also been damaged, so implants were installed. A laser scanner performs diagnostics, and an electronic voice confirms that the video channel is functioning correctly. Estelle attaches a bionic arm to him, and the machine welds it to his body. For a test, Estelle places an apple in his palm. Henry squeezes it, and the fruit bursts into pieces from the power of the bionics. Then she installs his leg. While the apparatus applies synthetic skin to the arm, Estelle tells him that she is his wife, but he may never remember it. Henry stands up, and she hands him a wedding ring, saying that she loves him. The woman leads Henry into another room, where two specialists are testing voice modules while playing a guitar connected to huge speakers. They offer him different celebrity voices to choose from. Estelle asks them to stop joking. Set Henry's voice. Yes, whatever you say, you are the boss. But suddenly the alarm blares, announcing a fourth-level threat. The door is blown open by an explosion, killing one of the scientists. Mercenaries rush in and take control of the room. Their leader, Akan, appears behind them. He studies Henry and admits that he did not finance the project to bring harmless people back from the dead. His true goal is to create an army of bionically modified soldiers like Henry. Akan reminds Henry of the condition in which he was found. One of his assistants says that Henry's head had been smashed to pieces, and Estelle had to gather him part by part. After that, Akan lifts National into the air with telekinesis and kills him. Estelle blasts loud music through the giant speakers to buy some time for escape. They descend into a ventilation shaft and end up in a freezer filled with corpses. Estelle explains that if Akan gains access to her research, he will resurrect such bodies to create his ruthless army. They reach the evacuation platform. Since only one capsule is left, Estelle puts Henry inside and intends to stay behind, but he takes her with him. They escape from the flying laboratory, but open the parachute too late and crash into a bridge at high speed. Before they can recover, another group of mercenaries approaches. Henry tries to fight back but lacks the strength, and the group's leader stuns him with a shock device. Henry falls from the bridge onto a car as Estelle screams. Regaining consciousness, he jumps to his feet and runs into cover. From there, he hears the mercenaries killing a guard. Henry rushes into a freight container and rips off a windshield wiper from a car. When a mercenary enters, Henry kills him and takes his weapon. He releases the car toward the mercenaries and bursts out of the container, shooting the enemies. But he is struck by a vehicle belonging to Akan's organization, which is immediately rammed by an unknown SUV. From the SUV emerges a man in a white shirt, gunning down the remaining mercenaries. He approaches Henry and introduces himself as Jimmy. Inside the car, Jimmy orders Henry to take a scanner from the glove compartment and connect to it. They discover that Henry's battery is not charging. Jimmy plans to take him to a laboratory to fix the issue, but they are stopped by policemen who turn out to be undercover mercenaries and open fire. Jimmy drives through the bullets, but a stray shot hits him in the head, and the car crashes. Henry is forced to act on his own. Under heavy gunfire, he rushes into an underground passage and hides in a kiosk. He quickly changes clothes, but a traffic policeman notices him. A fight breaks out, and Henry kills him with his own pistol. After that, he escapes from the subway and gets on a bus. At the next stop, a tramp sits down across from him. He grabs Henry by the hand. It turns out that this is also Jimmy, in another body. He pulls a tracker out of Henry's wrist and explains that Henry must find the cunning Dimitri, one of Akan's men, kill him, and take his power pump. Jimmy gives him a phone with a map showing Dimitri's location. Jimmy notices a guy in a bright jacket on the street and leans out of the window to ask where he bought it. But the man opens fire on them with a flamethrower. Henry jumps out of the bus and grabs a bottle of water from passers-by to extinguish his burning clothes. Tramp Jimmy is killed, but manages to shout that he will contact him later. Henry escapes from the flamethrower-wielding attacker and, along the way, steals clothes from some guys bathing in the park. This causes a conflict with their friends, but Henry resolves the situation peacefully without hurting anyone. He reaches Dimitri's house, where he is almost discovered by Akan's mercenaries. Thanks to parkour, Henry sneaks inside the building and creeps through the stairwell, bypassing enemies. But in the elevator, he runs into a man with guards and is forced to open fire. Using the man as a human shield, Henry pushes through the crowd of fighters, shooting them left and right. Eventually, he breaks into Dimitri's apartment, where some kind of database is located. At the table, he sees Dimitri sitting motionless. Henry kicks him to the floor, but Dimitri still does not move. At that moment, Henry is distracted by a video call from Estelle. She tells him that Akan has already begun building his army, and that soon it will be too late to stop him. At this moment, Dimitri jumps up and attacks Henry. A fierce shootout erupts in the apartment. Dimitri jumps out of the window and escapes. Henry chases after him, but he has no ammunition left. Dimitri straps himself to a cable and descends, and Henry is forced to pursue him. A citywide chase begins, full of parkour and stunts. Running across a bridge over the river, Henry grabs a bottle of champagne from a street cafe and hurls it at Dimitri, knocking him down. He then begins beating him. Just as Dimitri is about to propose a deal, his head is blown apart by a shot from arriving mercenaries. Henry manages to pull the power pump from Dimitri's body and escape. Jimmy calls and gives him a new meeting place. Henry arrives at the address and finds himself in a brothel where he is already expected. This time, Jimmy appears as a junkie with a powdered nose. Henry begins to lose consciousness, and Junkie Jimmy tries to install the pump, but realizes that he is not capable of doing so. He collapses dead on the floor. Immediately, another Jimmy enters, asks the girls to step aside, and successfully performs the operation. Over the phone, he warns Henry that enemies are already on their way. Scientist Jimmy leaves, and at that moment, Junkie Jimmy stands up again and snorts more powder for motivation. Henry takes a weapon from a drawer and enters the battle, gunning down mercenaries throughout the brothel amid the screams of courtesans. Jimmy also joins the fight, and together with them, two girls armed with pistols and a katana also assist. In one of the rooms, Henry confronts Akan. A fight ensues, and Akan hurls him into the ventilation system using telekinesis. Then he throws the body of Junkie Jimmy after him. Henry falls into an underground parking lot, where he meets another Jimmy in the form of a hippie. Together, they torture mercenaries to find out where Akan is taking Estelle. Under pressure, the mercenaries reveal everything. Shortly after, the girls from the brothel arrive, angry about the massacre in their establishment. But they also decide to join the pursuit. On motorcycles, the four of them rush after Akan's convoy. Catching up with the vans, Henry grabs the minigun mounted on the motorcycle and riddles one of the vans with bullets. Then they shoot through a second one, but lose the minigun in the process. Then Henry jumps onto the next van and blows it up with a grenade. A female motorcyclist in latex catches him and hands him her pistol, allowing him to take down the fourth vehicle. Unfortunately, the motorcyclist is killed. Only Akan's mobile laboratory remains. Henry sneaks inside, kills the scientists, and frees Estelle. They hold hands and are ready to celebrate their reunion with a kiss. But at that moment, Akan bursts in and knocks Henry out with a bat. He wakes up in the forest, surrounded by mercenaries. One of his eyes is popped out of its socket. While the enemies dig his grave, Hippie Jimmy and his girlfriend appear and gun them down. They put Henry's eye back in place and reassemble his body part by part. After that, they perform a reboot. Henry regains consciousness and sees the couple reaching enlightenment. But literally a minute later, they are attacked by mercenaries in a tank. The hippie and his girlfriend are killed. Henry climbs into the tank and slaughters the crew, with the katana left behind by the girls. Riding on the armor, he charges toward a rising helicopter, killing 3 more fighters along the way. Grabbing onto a rope, he guns down the enemies inside the helicopter, but the unit commander cuts the rope, and Henry crashes down onto a tree. On the ground, Jimmy calls him, sends a geolocation, and orders him to move toward his laboratory. There, Henry meets Sniper Jimmy, who guides him through an abandoned building and leads him into the lab. Inside, Henry finally encounters the original Jimmy in a wheelchair. Jimmy explains that he had created an army of universal soldiers for Akan, but he made a mistake and was crippled as punishment. To prove his words, he plays back the sound of a spine breaking. After the events in the laboratory, Jimmy moved to Russia and created an entire army of his own clone avatars, which he controlled through a neural interface. He demonstrates them one by one, turning it into a musical performance. But then, an alarm goes off, warning about the transmission of a video feed. Jimmy angrily tells Henry that it was he who brought Akan's men into the laboratory. He wants to extract Henry's eyes, but Henry resists. A fight breaks out with Jimmy's avatars, and Jimmy shows Henry that he is transmitting everything directly to Akan. In the end, Henry calms him down with a resounding slap. Jimmy realizes what is happening and decides to trust Henry. Together with the sniper avatar, they rush to the roof and open fire on the mercenaries. But the enemies are too many and the sniper disconnects. Then, a deranged punk Jimmy steps in, slaughtering enemies in every imaginable way. But he dies. Meanwhile, inside the lab, the general avatar places the original Jimmy in a wheelchair and helps him escape. They arm themselves to the teeth and, along with Henry, break through the enemies. However, downstairs they are surrounded by mercenaries. The general orders Henry to retreat slowly and then blows up the laboratory, burying the enemies under the collapsing ceiling. They drive away, but 3 vans pursue them. With the help of a grenade launcher, rifles, and explosives, they manage to eliminate the pursuers. Reaching Akan's building, the general steps out in full dress uniform and formally challenges Akan. Inside, Henry and Jimmy see that Todd has already prepared bodies for the army. Akan's men open fire, but Henry wipes them out with a grenade launcher. In the elevator, it becomes clear that the original Jimmy has been mortally wounded by a shard in his neck. The general avatar explains that he activated a memory block in Henry's mind, so his memories will soon begin to return. Then the clone disconnects, and the real Jimmy admits he was glad to have Henry's friendship before dying. Henry makes his way to the top floor and annihilates all the mercenaries there with the grenade launcher. In the control room, he sees his memories being processed on a screen. Akan appears on the video feed and declares that he will use Henry's memories to program his future soldiers. Each one's story will begin with prosthetic installation and Estelle's declaration of love. He mocks Henry and releases against him a cyborg equipped with an upgraded booster. After a hard battle, Henry defeats him, rips the booster from his chest, and installs it into himself. On the rooftop, Henry is surrounded by a horde of cyborgs. He fights them off in every way possible, and when his strength is nearly gone, he injects himself with adrenaline from a nearby medical kit. The world slows down, giving him the advantage. Finally, only he and Akan remain. Akan easily slams him to the ground, and Henry loses consciousness. When he wakes up, he sees Estelle kissing Akan. Akan mocks him, saying that in a week he will have 100 like Henry, each with a cheap wedding ring. And they will do everything their wife tells them, he says. Then he kicks Henry, and we see Henry's blurred gaze reflected in the glass. Henry recalls his father's words.
You little pussy.
That's what my old man called me. It's like it was my name. And I proved him right by killing all the wrong people. I love you, Henry. And I'll never call you anything but your name. But you gotta decide. Are you gonna lay there, swallow that blood in your mouth? Or are you gonna stand up, spit it out, and go spill theirs?
Summoning his last strength, he attacks Akan on the helipad, tearing off his arm. Akan creates a telekinetic storm field around himself, but Henry forces his way through, beats him down, rips out his own eye, and with the cable from it, cuts off Akan's head. Henry jumps into the helicopter, where Estelle awaits him. She asks where Akan is. Henry shows her what remains of him. Estelle screams in horror. "How could you do this?" In response, he writes, "Easy." Estelle then tries to shoot him, but the bullet ricochets off Henry's bionic arm and wounds her in the shoulder. Not understanding what happened,
What happened, Henry? You were supposed to love me.
she slips and clings to the edge of the helicopter. Estelle begs Henry to listen to his heart, but he slams the door shut on her hands.